Good evening, Rajiv.
Good evening, Priyanka.
How are you
How are you?
today?
Wonderful. Can always be better, but that's the best part about life, that tomorrow is better than today.
But today is a good day. We are catching up at the Own Your Future show. We've done better with time, with the kind of affection that we are getting and the kind of messages that we are getting, which show that there are a lot of people out there gaining attention to the space that we are trying to curate. So at the Own Your Future show, it is a space that is being built for you, so that there is always somebody that you can turn to. Conversations, power nuggets, studies, insights, toolkits, learning management systems, and a lot more. You just have to commit to own your future. What is the power nugget are we talking about today?
Well, Priyanka, I think, as you said, we're talking of something very fascinating today, the need of the hour. And it's all about resilience. So let me sort of share three principles for people who are looking at how to become a resilient leader. And I have some very simple three nuggets for that. We start with focus on your positive energy because that's what fuels you, that's what keeps you alive. Look out for outcomes that lead you to your goals. I think that's so important so that you can keep alive, keep moving, and keep energized. Last but not the least, ensure you have a purpose that you believe in. And I must say, the key word there is that you believe in. So, we are going to have a fascinating conversation today. There's no better time than this today, where we need to talk about resilient leadership, resilience, and we have a wonderful guest coming after this short video that is going to help us get introduced more to the show. And then I'll take the privilege to introduce you to our guest. Over to you,
But I
Priyanka.
want to I want to also highlight the one word which is common between the three nuggets, and which is you, which then ends up being the fulcrum and the center point of a lot of action. So appreciate you
Absolutely right.
shared that piece of wisdom. I'll bring up how we introduce the show. And the video refuses to play today.
Well. Here we have our special guest today, none other than Inderjit. And I say none other than Inderjit because he truly is none other than Inderjit because he comes with a plethora of probably experiences, expertise, understanding, knowledge, wisdom. Don't just go by his patient, calm looks. Let me try and tell you something about him, what I know of. And I'm sure he'll tell us more about himself as we go forward. He happens to be a diplomat, and a diplomat to the extent of a person who probably has great amount of respect and expertise and ability to manage things around. An advisor with the UN, a CEO of Indira Gandhi International Airport, the 16th busiest airport in the world, not, by the way, not anywhere else but the world, uh, an author, a lovely human being, and more importantly, I think what's so fascinating about him is that he has traveled more than 35 countries in his career. So we could have thought of a better person than Indrajit to talk to us about what it takes to become a resilient leader to help you to be able to own your future. So we're going to talk about this collectively. We're going to put our heads together and have this conversation. Welcome, Indrajit. Thanks a lot for taking out time and being here with us. Uh, Before we start, let me just have a few words from you, and then we'll sort of go to the conversation that we want to begin.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you to all the participants who would probably be listening to us today or later. Uh, I'm so happy to be on your show. It's a very popular show, and I've seen some of the episodes. You touch upon certain very topical aspects of leadership and life in general, because you can't have a strong line between life and work. I mean, they all go together. So I'm delighted to be with you today. Now, you ask me
That's so
whatever
kind of
you wish
you.
to, I'll speak from my heart.
That's so kind of
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you very much, Indrajit. So kind of you for your generosity with your time. because time is the most precious asset we have. So we really thank you for sparing the time with us and with our viewers today. Let's start. And as we said in the green room, we spoke about it, right? Let the fun begin, right?
Yes.
So, so for the fun to begin, let me start with saying, as I was mentioning, uh, what really made you choose a career which really took you to 35 countries over last so many years? It's something that definitely is unique about what you would have done, and what really made you choose that career. So let us know a little bit more about Inderjit, other than what's there on the LinkedIn profile or anywhere else. So over to you,
Okay.
Inderjit.
Okay, Rajiv, sure. Uh, to answer your question, there are several factors that influenced my life and my choice of vocation. Uh, all of this did automatically happen. I can attribute some to myself, my efforts, some to the divine universal forces, and perhaps some to the law of karma, if you believe in that. So it's a sum total of all these things. I won't attribute it to destiny or myself. I said it's a sum total of all these three, four forces working together. Today, I may share with you that I was not born on land, and I was born in high seas on an Australian cruise ship sailing from UK to Africa. My dad had finished his studies in UK Barrett Law from the Lincoln's Inn, and he was heading for Africa on his first appointment. My mom was carrying me. I was to come in this world 2 days later, but somewhere halfway I was born. So this simple thing of having born in the sea, in high seas, has made a profound influence on my psyche and my very being as I started associating myself as a global citizen as I grew. Because I thought that, not having born on a landmass and having born in the sea, which actually binds all the land masses of the world. The sea is a common factor that binds all the land masses of the world. I thought, like what word you used, purpose. So I started thinking on those lines. There must be some divine forces or a purpose of my having born there. And as I grew, as luck would have had it, my dad was in a job with the British government where he was the Queen's Counsel then. And his work would take him all over the world. So when I mentioned to you, Rajiv, about 35 countries, these are the 35 countries where I have worked. Sometimes just about 17 days. My shortest tenure in, let's say, Addis Ababa was for 17 days. I'd gone for a particular job, which I tried to accomplish, and I did it well. And the longest has been in a place called Mauritius, which was 2 years. So in these 20 years of my career, I have actually worked in 35 countries, but we have traveled to several other countries as tourist or along with my parents. So I was very lucky that I got a good kickstart having born in the high seas, which changed my mindset. I started thinking of the world without barriers. It is just symbolic. We have to have boundaries for every country, otherwise everybody would infiltrate in each other's countries. For law and order and all those purposes, you need to have boundaries. But here we are talking of no boundaries as far as minds are concerned. For me, United States, UK, Africa, Southeast Asia, UAE, wherever I have worked, it had made no difference. Wherever I had gone, I was very comfortable. I would land up one evening and next morning I'll start working as if it's my own country. So, that mindset was there, that there is nothing like you, me. For me, I'm a pilot, incidentally. So I have my eyes very well. 2020, my vision is perfect. But when it comes to color of the skin, I feel happy to be colorblind. Because for me, a brown skin or white skin or a yellow skin or a dark skin like me doesn't matter at all. I go beyond. If I like Rajiv, I like Priyanka, I like them. I don't owe any explanation to anybody and to myself why I like them. I just like them. That's all. So that's the end of it. Now, this is what to tell you that how such small things come and influence your psyche and make you what you are. So here I am the way I am.
Interesting. Interesting. I
So,
think
and my philosophy
it's
is love me or leave me. I mean, as simple as that.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think that's so interesting what you bring out, and the linkage of being born in the high seas and becoming a global citizen. I think that's actually sometimes, as you said, that they sort of wire you up in a way and manner which sort of make you who you become, and
Yes,
subconsciously that's what sort of gives you the power to be able to progress forward. So I think that's
yes,
very fascinating.
yes.
Uh, Before we move forward and sort of get into the next phase of our conversation, what comes to my mind is that going back to the theme and the topic of what we are really focused on today, and if you're really looking at resilient leadership, we all recognize resilient leadership with the fact of saying that people who can survive through thick and thin and come out winners,
Yes.
they are able to sort of move through whatever comes their way and just come back as saying, well, we can really do it. Now, connecting back to your own self as being a global citizen, truly having worked in 35 countries, I'm sure you've seen a lot of cultures, a lot of people with different backgrounds. Now, do you think that this trait of resident leaders, does it change or does it get impacted because of the cultures that people have, because of the professions they have? What's been your experience? And there can't be a better person than you to share your personal first-hand experiences about that.
Yes, to answer your question, one, of course, winners, the acid test for the winners or leaders is if they can go through the tough times and hold their head high. So that's there's no doubt about it. And to answer this, that yes, when you go around, you go to different places, you do find a difference of leadership styles, because there are several leadership styles. I could rattle out so many, but let's say there are a few which we can say: autocratic is one, authoritarian is another, democratic is another one, paternalistic or mentor type is another one, and the laissez-faire, the cool kind of leadership. That's the perhaps the best, where you can contribute the best of yourself without getting excited about things. I mean, a leadership should know how to control emotions. And we'll talk about it a little later, how emotional intelligence comes to make a good leadership quality in you. So I would say that leaders ought to be strong. And when I say strong, not physically really, but mentally very strong. I mean, that's the most important attribute I would offer to be a leadership who is a resilient kind of a leader. His mind has to be very strong. And to me, leadership, if you were to ask me the definition, I'll say it in one word. To me, leadership is synonym to resilience. You can't think of leadership, or you can't think of a leader who is not resilient. Resilience and leadership, if somebody was to ask me a synonym, I would say that goes very well with one another. They both complement each other. In fact, they are one and the same word, spelt differently maybe. And a leader should always challenge the challenges. We always say that's a big challenge, like making a vaccine was a major challenge, and we did it. After all, the leaders who are leaders in the medical industry did come out within 1 year. If you look back,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
SARS, Ebola, and MERS and all, it took 7 to 8 years. Of course, you could attribute it to the technology that we have, the knowledge we have, the analytical equipment, the computers, the high-speed computers and all we have. That is granted. But people are the same, but we could still do it within 1 year. So this is what it shows, that you have challenged the challenge, and we have come out very well. So when we're talking of strong minds, because I emphasized on strong minds, uh, as we exercise the body and build physical muscles, we either play golf, or we go for a long walk, or we go for cycling, or whatever, we are exercising our muscles to make them strong. I say, let us make our mental muscles also very strong, because we are now insisting on a very strong mind, a mind which would not bend. It would, if required, but not as a habit. Okay, we can't be fence sitters that, you tell me something, I lean that side, somebody else tells me something, I lean that side. I have to have my own strong mind to get inputs from everybody, because that's the leader's job. I mean, he should be a very good listener. Today I'm speaking because you have allowed me to speak. Otherwise, I would love to listen to you, because what I speak, I already know. But by listening, I'll get to know things which I don't know. Rajiv would tell me, Priyanka would tell me things which I would grasp and maybe use them somewhere. But today, since you have offered me to speak, I'm telling you what I have on my mind. And like Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, in the big leagues, everyone has the ability. It always comes down to mind games. Whoever is more mentally strong wins. Now imagine, he's not talking of his muscles, he's not talking of his punches, being one of the top-notch boxer of the world, recognized one. He's talking of mind. So what better could be a tribute to a person's mind than what Cassius Clay has said? Another thing that comes to my mind is, do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. That's Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not, we can't be counting somebody's successes all the time to say he's got a strong mind. We have to also see how many times he lost and then he bounced back. And I always share with my friends and colleagues, we say that the harder we fall, the higher we should bounce, which is again action and reaction. If you throw a ball from 2 feet, it will probably jump 1 foot. If you throw it from 6 feet, it will probably jump three feet. So that is the analogy, that if you have a strong kind of hardship, how you come out of it is a resilient mind, or a resilient leader will bring out you to that position. That's about
That
resilience.
so that's a very interesting point that you come out, uh, and the point that I want to highlight is that it is important that these things be said, because we all kind of, with social media, with colorful pictures, with the glitz and glamour of maybe golfing and parties, and the stage shows and the podium presence, uh, somewhere we kind of have stopped, or we need to take time out to listen to the backstory, because something that I remind myself, or that I get reminded very often, is that if you get the answer in 5 minutes, it's probably because there are 30 years of experience behind it. And
Absolutely.
so when we try to make a statement, and at a stage when the experience really has been the life, something that I've kind of wanted, I and Rajiv often try to curate through our work, is that, listen,
Yes.
not everybody got it straight, got it right, and not everybody got it right in the first place itself. So Rajiv writes on his
Yes.
website very appropriately, and he says,
Yes.
success without failure is a fluke. And
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
it's really those moments which, and frankly, maybe the more those moments, they're just painful. I mean, that's what they are. They're things that did not go your way, and it's important that this be said, so that for those who are listening, and maybe those who are listening in a phase of life where it's not been the easiest of going, and that has been the case for some of us in the recent past. It's really what you do every day to kind of keep going back to the work desk, and how you make the everyday better than the previous one. So
Yes.
that's a very kind and a very powerful message that you share. And I'd like to conclude what you say by saying that it's what we do every day, and that success and failure both go hand in hand, and it's not one over the other, and that
Yes.
we kind of are made of all our experiences, good and bad. So
That's
that's
right.
that's that's an important point that we'll try to
Yes.
talk about. Let's talk about your book, and you're talking about a book that is titled "Tough Road Makes or Creates." And let me get the title right. Tough roads create tough people. So
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
going to take up two questions on that. Firstly, the the influence of the title, and please share with us why you chose this title.
Okay.
And maybe a personal experience that encouraged you most.
Sure, sure. Yes, of course, yes. I like this idea of having a tough mind. Okay. So I thought that you need to write something. I mean, I felt of writing my chapter, you see, because it's co-authored by another three people, four people actually, and one happens to be a Nobel laureate also. So I belong now to that league, I can say. So we shared the same book, and incidentally, the publishers and everybody, the jury liked my article, and they placed it number one. And the name of the book, of course, is Tough Road Creates Tough People. But my chapter, the first chapter, is called Tough Enough. Tough, tough enough. And the emphasis in my book is being tough mentally, again, coming back to what we discussed, which literally means being resilient. Again, our topic of today. So when you say you have a tough mind, you reflect it in that book. And I went on, I'll just read three lines of the beginning chapter, which is like a little essence. I said, in my life, I have lived, I have loved, I have lost, I have gained, I have missed, I have hurt, I have trusted, I have made mistakes. But most of all, I have learned. And so now I am tough enough. So
Oh,
the emphasis is on learning. Today you have made me a very celebrity kind of an author, and they all go and speak around their first or two or three lines. So that's what I did today. So I wanted to give you, I mean, we can't read the entire chapter, but in these three lines, what I have mentioned is that we have to learn. So coming back to the same thing, the harder we fall, the higher we bounce, is that we have to learn from whatever mistakes we have done. Okay? You have loved, you failed, you have learned something. You played golf, you lost today. For the world, you lost, but I have gained an experience, so I'll correct myself the next day. I won't play that shot the way I played yesterday. So I have learned. I can't afford to go to an academy to learn that shot, but I have learned it on the course because I did a mistake. So you see, the important thing, Priyanka, is to learn whatever we do. That's why sometimes I feel it's a great thing to do what we used to do in the past in writing a journal, writing a diary. So in the night, you take 5 minutes off and go through the whole day and say what all I did. The plus points, ignore them because you are meant to be doing plus points. But where you have gone negative or something has gone wrong, take good stock of it, learn a lesson, and then proceed. But don't keep on harping on what you have lost. You see, if you, let's say, if you are driving, you can't be looking at the rear view mirror all the time if you want to drive forward. You would probably have a little glimpse of it once in 10 minutes to see who is following you. But generally, you are looking at the windshield in front, not at the rear view mirror. So while I am advocating that we should go back and try to analyze, but don't go back too much. What happens is people start thinking of the trauma they have gone in their childhood or anything else, any circumstances that led them to some difficult positions in their life. That you should get over. But what you have done immediately, because you can't correct all that, that time is gone. But what I did today, I can surely correct it tomorrow. But what I did 20 years back, I don't think I can now correct it. So the point is, keep all that the back of your mind, see where you stand today, and what Rajiv said in the beginning. If we have a good today, let's look for the good tomorrow. That's what you announce in your OYF. So, you own yourself, own your responsibilities. And most of the leaders, what they do is, if everything goes well, they take the credit. If something goes wrong, they pass on the problem to somebody else. Ifs and buts come. If he had come in good time, if the amount had come in good time. No. If I do a mistake, I must be strong enough to own it. Because on my command or on my words, my subordinates or my people, we are now talking of leaders who are really at the top, who are the helms of the affair. I don't discount anybody. Everybody who is doing his work is a leader in himself. But then you have an official leader, a leader who is, answerable. and accountable. Those people are answerable, but they are not accountable. We at the helms of the affairs are accountable to somebody, to the government, to the family if you're running the show, or to people who are watching us today. I mean, every minute of theirs should be accounted for. I mean, we should be having something that they would say, well, it was worth watching them for 40 minutes. At least one thing was said properly and to
Absolutely.
the point.
I,
So
I,
that's what it
I
is.
so sort of sorry to, I think what you're saying is so powerful. And the last bit sort of just spoke to me so clearly. So I just sort of jumped into it. Sorry for doing that. But I think what you say is so true, that it's so important to value and respect the other person, not only just for who they are, but for the time they are investing in us and in
Ab-
themselves. And I think
Absolutely.
that's something, and it all goes by saying, start by being accountable to yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that's so very important for every
Yes.
individual to recognize and realize. There are
Yes.
two thoughts that came to my mind as you were speaking. One is the fact, which is a very old saying that goes that when the going gets tough, the tough get going,
Mm.
right? And if you think about it, the essence of resilience actually lies in that statement,
Yes.
that anybody and everybody who is being able to survive, build their own capabilities, call out their inner strength, are people who have chosen for themselves to
Yes.
be able to say that when the going is tough, I will choose to keep going, right?
Yes.
And that's a
Yeah.
character, that's an individual trait, that's an individual capability which allows the person to say that this is who I am, this is what I will stand for, and this is what I will do, right?
Yes.
And on the second point of what you said, something that just reflects to me and it comes to me very loud and clear is the fact saying, and I always say this to people I work with as part of my accountability partnership relationships that I have, or as part of the show that we curate here at this point in time, is the fact that there are actually two type of leaders. One are leaders who pretend to be leaders, and sorry for being so upfront about it, and the others who lead because they make more leaders. So in my mind, any leader who invests in their people to create more leaders are true leaders. And
Yes.
that capability comes from the strength that the person gains out of lack of being, they are leaders who are not insecure. They are leaders who have no fear of anything that anybody can do to them. They have
Yes.
no fear of the environment. They have no fear of anything else because they have the confidence of their purpose, they have confidence of their energy, and they
Yes.
say that we want to do that. And what you said is so true. Leadership and resilience is actually synonymous for exactly the
Yes.
same reason, that
Yes.
only if a leader is resilient will he or she be able to actually make more leaders. So I just thought I'll sort of summarize some of the thoughts that have been coming across, and so they've
Absolutely.
sort of so beautifully been woven into it. And so thanks for sort of sharing that and helping us sort of stitch this together in
I
terms of the
must
way it's shaping.
I must take this occasion and acknowledge we have an international audience and we have people from a very wide swath of the earth. We have Vicinti Modale, and I would apologize in advance for incorrect pronunciations. Vicinti Modale, and she joins us from South Africa. We
Yes.
have Stephen, who probably is joining us from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Dr. Usha is joining us from South Africa again. And
Mm-hmm.
I do know that Mr. San Madhur has joined us from India, most likely Delhi. I'm not sure about the city though. So appreciate the guests who have spared their time for us and joined this conversation. They're welcome to drop their messages and their comments and questions in the comment section. We would love to be able to take them up. Rajiv, do you want to take the next conversation forward, or is it my turn?
I think it's as you said, let the fun begin, and all of us are continue to do that. I'll just sort of pick up on the last thought that I was mentioning in the fact saying that we've seen so much that is happening around us today in the current context. The
Yes.
last few quarters have been tough for probably everybody, right?
Yes.
People have gone through pain of personal loss, loss in
Yes.
businesses, loss in jobs,
Yes.
pay
Yes.
cuts. A sector that you represent, the aviation industry, has really
Yeah.
suffered through a lot
Yes.
of hardships. challenges that people have had in small businesses. People have struggled to be able to sort of manage their own mental health and well-being from a perspective of just the environment shift that has happened and balancing relationship, work, and so on and so forth. I think all of us have spoken about this, discussed this probably all through. But what comes to my mind around this reality that we all are faced with today, which I'm now calling as the new normal, and I'm using the
Mhm.
word new normal in the context of the fact saying that that's what the space that we are living in has become. The important part from a leadership perspective that comes to me is that while leaders have been resilient, leaders have who have survived are people who have sort of invested their best foot forward and built businesses, led from the front, and so on and so forth. They've stood up the time tested era of saying that we are good leaders and we're doing what we're doing. I just want to switch the course of conversation slightly towards the fact saying, which says, one, do we see this resilience and this capability to continue as we go forward? Because someday the pandemic is going to come to an end and we're going to start living a better life.
Yes.
Plus, is this going to start getting mixed up with the most important trait that has got built in, which is compassion? So the question is resilient leadership to stay going forward? And what role does compassion play in that if you really look at it? What are your
Of
views on
course.
that, Inderjit?
Excellent, Rajiv. This is a very good question. And uh, if going is good, everything is good. The leader is comfortable, things are moving like it were moving in, let's say, 10 years. Economy was gearing up, things were happening, manufacturing was increased, exports, imports were doing well all over the world. We are talking at a global level because you mentioned we have friends listening to us, so they may not be particularly interested in one country. And we established in the beginning that we are all global. In
Right.
today's world, you can't be sitting in your own cocoons and working. We have to come out becoming from a caterpillar to become butterflies. So that metamorphosis has to take place in each one of us. That's also I referred in my book, that never say die attitude. So in a situation like this, when we are going through pandemic, I sometimes don't like to call it new normal. It is normal. New normal for a few days. Remember 9/11 when we had that security problem in United States, all over the world, people thought life is doomed, nothing will happen, aviation is gone. And see, we bounced back. Exactly
Yeah.
4 years we came not only matched with the traffic before 9/11, but became much more than that. So, life, this pandemic is finite.
Well said.
OYF is infinite. Our living
Well,
is
well said.
infinite.
Well said.
The
I
world,
really
the,
appreciate that point that you make here.
the world is infinite. These are just hiccups. As a strong mind or a leader, let us say, we have to realize and we have to convey, because you see, we all tend to look up. Either we are looking up to the God, or we are looking up to our so-called leaders whom we have placed them.
Yeah.
So trust them, and it's incumbent on us to tell the world that heavens have not fallen. I don't want to sound pessimist. I want to be a realist, and I don't want to also sound very optimist. One has to be realist in life. You said pandemic will go away in 2 years. God willing, it may go away in 1 year or maybe in 6 months. I pray for that. But
Yeah.
then we have to be prepared for anything more severe to come. Where is the guarantee? When we had SARS, we thought it's gone, we celebrated. Then MERS came, we thought it's gone, we celebrated. Then Ebola came, it's still there in some countries, but we thought it's all over. We rejoice and get back to the normal, as if it was a firefighting exercise. We did some quick fix band-aid and all, and we are delighted. This is the problem. I would suggest that take this very seriously. When I say the world, the global leaders who are in medical profession, WHO and all, should see now this is enough. This was Universal's way of shaking people to awaken them. I think so. If we to put it very mildly, this is Universal's way of shaking people to awaken them and say that, listen, you became too lethargic, now get up and start working. We were very happy with all that was happening in aviation, 100 years of history of aviation. We have the largest aircraft, the fastest aircraft. 9/11 turned the whole thing down by saying, you are good, you are big, you are fast, but you are not secured. Okay? So security came to the forefront. Now, it was another message coming from the universal forces that you are fast, you are good, you are highly secured, but health-wise you are very poor. Now, I being a professional from the airports, I feel that when we have all that paraphernalia of immigration, security, customs, and all that stuff, duty-free shops, the glamorous restaurants, wines, and what have you, everything, why couldn't we say that have one counter at least, or few counters to check on your health conditions? Because, everybody needs health, but nobody was bothered about health. Only in certain countries you have to take a yellow fever injection or something like that, or a cholera, where there is suspicion that that might still be there. But this pandemic came all over the world. What is the guarantee that there will be no COVID-28, COVID-32, or COVID-33? We are talking of 10 years hence, because SARS happened exactly 16 years back. So, we are back to square one. In fact, we are now in negative side. We are in a worse situation as compared to SARS, Ebola, and MERS and all that. So my point is that when we are at the top, you also mentioned one small thing, that people at the top think that they are not answerable, for instance. Sometimes they put it down the line. But for me, in my way of management thinking, there's nothing like top. Because once you reach the top, you have to get down. So when you are at the top of your group or your institution, there is another top. Take that top as the beginning of another top. Then when you reach that top rung of that ladder, then that is the beginning of the third ladder to go up. Because once you say that I have reached the top, then there's no way but to come down. Even when you are on Everest, you get down, isn't it? Eventually, you don't stay there. So for us leaders, we should never feel that I have reached my top, because we are all in transit. Whichever institution we are working, 2 years, 3 years, whatever period that you are appointed there, do your best, give your best, and move on. So here also the same thing, question comes, that when things were going well, we were very happy. But now that things have gone tough, it's all the more reason that we take tough decisions, we take tough views, and something called consequence management. Whatever we do, think of what the consequences would be, not now, next year, next to next year, next to next year. You may not be there. You may have moved into becoming a super CEO of some other organization, but then you leave a legacy, like you said in the beginning. So the point is that now actually is the task of a tough, resilient leader. More, this is the acid test. When we are in trouble, we have to be even more resilient, because the situation demands more resilience. So we have no choice but to be a better version of what we were yesterday, when things were okay. When I say yesterday, maybe 2 years back. So after COVID, we have to reinvent ourselves, reorient our thoughts, reorganize ourselves, do whatever, put all the re's and do whatever you want to do to reinvent yourself. Come out as a better leader, a more resilient leader. So these are the challenges which I think the universal forces throw at us from time to time, and test us. It's the acid test for us. So most of us are now determined that we'll get over the situation. Our airports, aviation sector has become strong. Aircraft manufacturers have taken a point of view that we will integrate all these things as part of standard equipment. Not like what they are doing today, bringing trolleys and spraying and all. This would continue for all time to come. Same with security. It happened 20 years back, 9/11. It was 21 years actually. Still, we are going with that security, because when you are flying, you don't have that fear that when I'm flying over New York, I'm going to hit into the World Trade Center. No, accident may happen, but no deliberate attempt can take you there. We make sure. So that
I want to bring the focus, and I want to pick the piece where we are discussing the recent times and the recent experiences, I want to say, what are the two things which you would now be more focused on, which has become center point, and it was not the center point minus the recent experience? So what are the two things? So something that I can pick from the environment is how family is now a little. So I'll give you simple examples of how it is now okay to have your child pop into your Zoom meeting. You know, how it is okay to have your dog barking suddenly, and more people are more patient towards that. That, you know, if I'm speaking and suddenly my dog starts barking, it's okay. The world will not stop moving, and hell will
Yes,
not break loose.
yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so
Yes, I
the, on a
think,
lighter note, what are the two things you are bringing to your table as we
yeah.
move forward? Something that you've picked up from recent past.
Yes, yes. I think there are two or three things which have come as an outcome of what we are going through now. We are not talking of aviation sector. I guess you're
No, we're
talking
talking
generally
about
speaking.
how we
Generally
function as
speaking, generally
professionals. Yes.
speaking, I would
Yeah.
say three or four things. One is a sense of purpose. We have to have very clear, well-defined agenda in front of us. We have to do the goal setting. And how do we do the goal setting is that everything appears to be important. So I would say prioritize. Half of your things will be gone. What is important and what is urgent? Everything happens to be urgent these days,
Yeah.
this everything, you have to reach there in good time, you have to eat food at good time, you have to take your medicine at good time. So we are time is actually governing us more than ourselves governing the time. So I would say prioritize, decide what is important, which would have consequences, do them first. And I am not for a moment suggesting procrastinate what is urgent. Keep it for afternoon, evening, or maybe tomorrow. But what is important, which would spoil your tomorrow, do it today. But which you can possibly do tomorrow. You see, this is what is important. You prioritize. Number two, humility is very important. This pandemic, for instance, has brought us all to ground. Presidents, prime ministers, street vendor, everything is now at the same form. Everybody sneezes, everybody coughs, everybody wear masks. So there is no difference between A, B, and C. In fact, when you go around, you don't know who is who. They're all under the mask. So one has to come down to earth, become humble. Compassion is very, very important, and a very humanitarian outlook. I think that is most important, which was lacking. People had started suddenly feeling with all the return on investments people were getting and all that. Now, where is all that ROI gone? Today, if I value, we have big assets lying at our airports worth millions and billions and trillions worth of airports just sitting there. Aircraft all relaxing, doing nothing. What is lacking is human being. You don't have passengers, you don't have people. So my emphasis would be as a leader more on people than those assets. Assets are important, but if people are not there, those assets become worthless. You have 6 cars in your garage, but you're not supposed to, there is a lockdown, you're not supposed to be driving out. So what's the point of having 6 cars? Do have them. I don't say if your karmas have allowed to get you 6 cars. I'm very spiritual in my leanings. Yes, we must enjoy all that. But where to draw the line is very important. And now, since I use the word spiritual, my last line would be there is one thing of being human and having spiritual experience. Just I have tried to reverse it. I said, and another of being spiritual being and having human experience.
I
So,
think
and
very
now
powerfully said that.
let's take away religion out of it. I don't believe
Yes.
in religions. We are talking of spiritual, a good human being, compassion, empathy, and all those traits that we were taught of being a good leadership by Peter Drucker, our friend, the guru of management.
Religion.
All
Yeah.
all that notwithstanding, I think he never mentioned about spiritual kind of a thing, which we have learned the hard way. So if we are not spiritually connected, I think it's not worth it. What is the difference between humans and others? I won't even say animals. Animals are spiritually connected too, but We are talking of human beings, the kind of complete man or a woman of substance that we are talking of. We are not talking of ordinary human beings. We are talking of the evolved human being here. We are talking of human being who has understood the virtue of life, like Rajiv.
I think that coming from one of the 12, somebody who has been chosen as the 12 influencers of the world, somebody who has co-authored a book along with Nobel laureates, somebody who has the life experience of 35 countries where he has just worked, and this is not travel, and to somebody who's brought great laurels and a lot of comfort to our lives as we transit Delhi, which is a busy place at the airport. It means a lot that you shared that time and that experience to us. This conversation, of course, now gets recorded for posterity. And as a lot of people could join us today and hopefully will watch it over the years to come,
Thank you.
I'd probably say my closing remarks and start with what we had originally talked in the green room, saying setting your mind free. I think the internet and the digital world gives you that opportunity where three people can get together for a conversation
Yes.
without getting very worried about the travel and the timings of it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
share that conversation for the world to follow. Rajiv?
Sure.
Yeah, and I would just want to wrap up before your last comments, Inderjit. I just want to take this opportunity to sort of bring to perspective the fact that today we are actually curating this space with three different people from different, I would not say professions, but different perspectives to life and their experiences. In Priyanka, we have a web presence and a digital specialist. In Inderjit, we have a human being, and I would like to start with that, having heard from you and understood a little things about what you do. A human being who is a global citizen and served the country and various other opportunities in making positive impact through the various responsibilities that he has and a lot of other stuff that you continue to do. And with my exposure and limited experience of serving individuals and businesses to be able to build capabilities to get better at what they are doing today and how they can enhance themselves. And this, to my mind, as a number, and I love numbers actually, they collects to become a 90 plus years of experience. Now, that's the power of what we are really curating here. So, thanks to you for this opportunity. Thanks to you for being part of this space. And I'm sure we'll get more opportunities to continue to keep engaging, keep learning from each other, you contributing towards what you keep doing. I think thank you is a very small word, but I just
Yeah.
want to end it up by saying thank you for your time and effort. Your closing remarks, Indrajit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you summed it so very well that whether three of us are from different vocations or with different backgrounds, but what links us together is that we have those beautiful human feelings. We all apparently have compassion in our hearts, and we are on the right path, if I may say so, and trying to better ourselves, trying to become a better version of ourselves. What we are today, hopefully tomorrow we are a better version of ourselves. I mean, if that is the aim, that is the objective, that this is not the end all. There is so much more that we have to do, so much more that we have to learn. That with that positive feeling, I think we can just march ahead without any fear. God be with us.
Absolutely.
God
Thank you.
be with
Thank you
us
very much.
all. God
Thank you very
bless.
much.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
close the
you.